Warhammer 40k 11th edition battle report. Friday night just gone at the amazing Wayland Games as part of their midnight opening for Armageddon. I got to go up against Mike and his army of Admech toasters. So he was running Purge the Foe. I had priority assets, resulting in a matchup which gave him Destroyer's Wrath, and I had the rather less fun Vital Link. For my opponent, he had to do very straightforward. He had to blow stuff up, he had to blow up more stuff than I was blowing up, he had to control objectives, and then try and get more objectives than I had. Whereas for me, with Vital Link, I had to control center objectives, I had to control objectives in general, I had to perform actions on center objectives to put down operation markers, I then had to keep in control of the center to gain points from those operation markers, and at the very end of the game, a rather telegraphed move, I have to take my opponent's home objective. And that is the maintain control action that I had to take each turn on the center objectives. For the map, we selected Dawn of War, as that worked quite well with the way the tables are set up at Wayland's, and we went with the less complicated terrain setup. I think that was layout C that we had in the end. So interestingly, 4 objectives down the center. Each of us has got a natural expansion, 2 central and 1 home objective each. Once we'd set the board up, it looked a little bit like this, and we were treated by Wayland Games to try out their brand new objective terrain pieces. So we can see that they've custom printed them to match the game mats. All very snazzy. That was nice that they treated us to those, and yeah, they were nice to play on. Deployment looked a little bit like this. So on the left flank, I had Calgar leading the Blade Guard, supported by Billy the Brave. In the centre, I had a unit of Intercessors along with their Lieutenant, and they were being backed up by the big Ebenezer, courtesy of Old Man Miniatures, thank you, brother. He was there to basically to back them up. That's the big Repulsor Executioner. Then further along the line, I had the Infiltrators. Scouts, we'd popped into the mid-board, and then I had the world's biggest unit, which was Titus, plus the Wardens, plus 10 Stern Guard on the right. They were supported by Harold the Hammerstrike and a unit of Infiltrators. Mike set up as such. I don't know the names of hardly any of his units, as I hadn't gone up against Admech before, but it was all terrible and I hated them all. My first 2 secondaries were no prisoners and overwhelming force. So take out enemy units and take out enemy units that are on objectives. He went first and surged towards the mid-board with a couple of his units. I used practical tactics to run my scouts away, because that's how brave they are. As you can see, not 1 but 2 units of his claimed those centre objectives, knowing that my whole mission is about holding the centre. So he was very wise to try and take those away from me. When it came to my turn 1, I managed to sort of run away with my scouts and my incursors. That allowed Ebenezer to trundle up the middle, and I spent the next 15 minutes rolling dice for his various guns as he fired into those little units in front of him. And at the end of turn 1, I'd been able to score 3 points on primary and 9 points on secondaries. I'd staged up ready with the Blade Guard to either press into his expansion objective or help defend the centre. Billy the Brave was just hanging about farming aura. His expansion objective was full of horrible Admech shenanigans. He'd stickied it as well. I pushed forward a little bit with Titus and friends, still trying to decide whether I went after my expansion objective, helped secure the home, not the home, the centre, knowing that the centre was so important to my missions. The Infiltrators were still holding out in my expansion, and Harold was likewise keeping an eye on them. Thank you, Dr. Doom, for painting Harold for me. We can see the terrifying Belisarius Call on his home objective at the moment, and some other units staging. And here's a sort of a zoomed out shot of what the board looked like at this point. As we moved into turn 2, we can see some of these nasty tanks of his and his fancy Admech dice. Via the use of Armour of Contempt, I was able to get Billy onto a 5-up save against 3 very powerful anti-tank shots. That's how you win friends and influence people. So there's Billy, still unharmed at this point, but he was very much staring down the barrel of those guns. Over on the right flank, unfortunately, my Infiltrators were ambushed by these horrible sort of stabby robot men. They had anti-infantry. That was over in a matter of seconds. Over on the other side, Calgar and the Blade Guard were valiantly fighting against a bunch of robots as well. This left me very much in danger of losing my expansion objective. Billy returned fire. Unfortunately, things didn't go so well. Turnabout being fair play, I rolled incredibly well on my saves, and these were my 2 las cannons wounding on a 2. Snake eyes. At the end of turn 2, I was ahead at 29 points to 12. As we went into turn 3, Calgar is still scrapping with the last of those robots. I moved Harold up to help secure my expansion objective and also the Stern Guard. I had to bring my cousin Vinny out of reserves in my home deployment zone, but that allowed him to get a firing lane on that unit of infantry and almost wipe them out, leaving just a couple of them left. Things then got very scary. I dumped Ebenezer in the middle to try and protect him from some fire, but unfortunately Belisarius' call ran up to him and he just melted him. I don't know what he did or how he did it, but before we knew it, Mike adopted the customary pose that is within our group very important for when you blow up one of my fancy tanks. And there he was. Sorry, old man miniatures, the curse of the new model strikes again. Billy and the Admech tank continued to duel each other in a sort of a Mr. Burns versus Smithers fight that wasn't really going anywhere fast. But Billy then had a nap, unfortunately, so let's pour one out for Bilster. To make things even worse, he was able to basically release this unit of chicken walkers out of reserves into my home deployment zone as I didn't have enough units to screen. Calgart and friends operated a fallback and then were prepared to charge into them. The chicken walkers fired down this long end of the board and took Vinny down to just 3 wounds. Bearing in mind this turn I'd already lost my big tank, Ebenezer, and I'd lost Billy, so I was in danger of losing all 3 of my heavy artillery in one go. It was all kicking off in the middle. The stern guard ran forward, charged through the wall, took out those little robots, came back out. Harold the Hammerstrike was up close as well. He delivered a tank shock. You can see that I've managed to land my jump pack intercessors on his home objective. Turnabout is fair play, of course. You can see them there. So they managed to chuck some grenades, do a bit of shooting, charge in, bunch of mortal wounds. And as I've spent most of the game battle shocked, thankfully I was able to sticky some objectives before the battle shock landed. And then Vinny returned the favour. Oath of Moment, I managed to land max shots, so D6 plus 3 for 9 shots, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. The chicken walkers did melt. No KFC today. At the end of turn 3, I was ahead at 54 points to 39. And this is when we got too excited and I stopped taking pictures. So at the end of round 4, I was ahead 75 to 46. And then at the end of turn 5, when my opponent conceded, I think that ended up with me being 92 to his 60, give or take. So yeah, great game. Really enjoyed going up against Mike and his terrifying Admech. Definitely some things to learn, and there'll be a 5 mistakes I made video coming soon. Maybe it'll be 50 mistakes, but we'll see how we get on. But yeah, loving 11th edition. So cool, guys.